I was raised a strict New Yorker, where every Sunday morning my father and I would dissect the famous New York Post's back cover page that was devoted to sports and only sports. I was addicted to cutting out pictures and reading everything written, from the box scores of individual games all the way up to interviews with specific players that talked about their story and how they came to be the athletes they are now. I became addicted to watching sports games with my dad and then reliving them through articles and pictures published the next day that I could keep forever if I wanted to. Of course, as I grew older, I discovered new ways to get this information that I loved, including television channels such as ESPN that not only highlighted the games that happened but offered new analysis on visual topics that I could observe. When I heard about a new social media outlet that both athletes and journalists were starting to join, I made an account solely to follow these professionals. The aspect that attracted me to Twitter was the personalization of the app. My sister and I would be sitting next to each other on the couch on the same exact application, but I would be getting play-by-play action of every single Yankee game played on my timeline, and she would read tweets about what the Kardashians were eating for breakfast that day. It also allowed me to access stories as soon as they came out, so I was constantly informed on what was going on in games or what was happening with my favorite players that day. Twitter no longer became an extra tool to read if you were bored. It became the essential place to get all sports news at your fingertips. I remember specifically one day when an ESPN baseball beat writer retweeted this tweet by professional baseball player Craig Breslow. "I can no longer denounce the relevance of Twitter. It broke the story of my trade, to me." It was in that moment that I realized the speed of sports journalists using Twitter had surpassed the amount of time it takes Breslow's general manager to make a phone call to him and tell him that he wasn't on the team anymore. And in this moment, I realized Twitter was completely taking the sports media world by storm. Day by day, professionals realize how relevant social media is and start being active on it by tweeting out their links to their articles or interacting with fans. A lot of the stories that used to be certain for newspapers that came out only every day has now been redirected to the internet, which includes getting more information in a much shorter amount of time and more frequently. Now, this transformation is beneficial for both sports journalists and fans that utilize Twitter to get updated information. There's a symbiotic relationship that forms when journalists give fans information and analysis as soon as the news breaks, and fans, in return, retweet the links that they like and start a domino effect with the story that travels through Twitter like wildfire. In addition to the journalism aspect of Twitter, both writers and fans have the opportunity to hear from athletes directly by following them, creating the effect that fans have a closer relationship to their idols and the players that they enjoy watching. Twitter is handy, interesting, and a way for fans to fall in love with sports even more than they already have. It's clear that Twitter is a very special tool for both journalists and fans by allowing the spread of stories and giving the fan base an opportunity to respond to these stories. But sometimes Twitter can create pressure on journalists to release a breaking story as soon as possible, and the ability for athletes to respond can sometimes cause controversy. This past March, the Certified Sports Center Twitter account tweeted, "NC State sophomore and ACC Player of the Year TJ Warren will enter the NBA draft." So when I went to TJ Warren's Twitter page to see how he responded, 3 hours earlier he had only tweeted one word: undecided. Now you can make the argument that TJ made a decision within 3 hours, but throughout the rest of the day, his coach said that he was still making a decision, and even after the SportsCenter tweet, TJ never released a statement or another tweet on the subject, only retweeting people who claimed that he was still undecided. This is an example of how the necessity to break a story immediately and the ability for athletes to respond can combine to create a lot of confusion in the Twitter world. Sometimes just the fact that Twitter has no filter causes a lot of controversy for athletes. Major sports organizations have gone as far as fining athletes an excessive amount of money just for their actions on Twitter. Chad Johnson, well known as Chad Ochocinco, sent this tweet in the middle of a 2010 preseason game. Now, this single tweet combined whited out expletives in addition to complaining about another team. But the problem the NFL had was not so much with the expletives or the content, but that it was a violation of the NFL rule that one could not send tweets starting 90 minutes before a game. After the NFL slammed Johnson with a $25,000 fine, he responded, of course, on Twitter. "Dear NFL, I apologize for tweeting during the game, but that was 2 months of my Bugatti payments you just took from me. I won't do it again." Actions on Twitter have caused enough controversy in the past that some athletes now have social media lawyers to both advise them on what might be detrimental to their careers or to defend them if they make a mistake on social media, where things get deleted but never really disappear. Though these problems do exist, necessary steps can be taken for both journalists and athletes in order to utilize Twitter correctly, where they can expand their careers through the wide audience available while having the ability to interact with readers and fans. The benefits of Twitter are too good to pass up when it comes to sports journalism. The expanded audience, the satisfaction of the fans when they find out new information, and the entertainment that athletes give while showing a different side of them and interacting with people just sitting at home. The single application meant for entertainment really has transformed the world of sports for professionals and fans alike. And if professionals use it correctly without creating confusion or controversy, it will be the gateway for more transformations of practices throughout the digital age.